Hello and welcome. This is Amhara TV and you are watching Apps of the Week, our Friday edition, which has two segments. The first program is Grand Stories, which is specifically designed to highlight the main events and happenings of each week. And the second program is The View. And today on The View, we are going to talk about the 6th national election of Ethiopia, which has been conducted on June 21st of 2021 or 2021. And to do that, I have Bantayo Shifarao, the Political Science and International Studies lecturer at Bahar Dar University. Thank you very much for joining me in the studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's begin with, how did you see the election of the Ethiopia this time, the 2021?
I think it's relatively better than the previous elections we had in the past. This has to do with, first of all, the Electoral Board of Ethiopia. People who used to run this institution were people who had clear allegiance to the leading political party. And the change in this election is the fact that the Electoral Board of Ethiopia was being reorganized, at least in the higher up. So people in the higher up of the Electoral Board of Ethiopia, they don't have clear allegiance to the leading political party. So you expect some kind of impartiality and independence from them. So I think at least the fact that Burtukan became the chairwoman of the Electoral Board of Ethiopia in a way graced this election. And also the fact that political parties, like other times, were given a relatively a level playing field to present their ideas and influence people here and there, with all the imperfections, irregularities and intimidations that has also continued. I think it's relatively better. You know what, in Ethiopia,
like conducting an election is always peaceful, relatively peaceful. Yeah. But when it comes to like the result, like when communicating the results, there is always violence, chaos and crisis. So what are we going to do about the post-election process?
Post-electoral violence has to do with electoral integrity and the legitimacy of the outcome of the election. So far, I think, although the result of the election has not been announced by the Electoral Board of Ethiopia, but so far, leaders of political parties have not shown any sign of, this major concern that lead them to not to accept the result of the election. So, despite the fact that so many irregularities have been raised, not just by the political parties, opposition political parties, but also the Electoral Board of Ethiopia has raised concerns. On the day of the election, the chairwoman of the Electoral Board of Ethiopia was raising a concern that some regions like the Amhara regional states, the NPR in the Afar region, representatives of political parties candidates were being intimidated to observe the election. So you have these kinds of concerns that also political leaders have been raising these concerns. But I have not seen anyone who is expressing this grave concern that will lead to instigating violence among their bases, among their supporters. So, as far as whether there is going to be post-electoral violence, we're just going to have to wait and see. But so far, I haven't seen any sign of the outcome of the election leading to violence.
There is no any concern about the post-election process or the post-election crisis. In case there is something after the results announcement, what should be done? Like, what is expected from the opposition party leaders, from the general public, and from the government too?
Election is a process. Then you cannot judge an election just on what happened on the day of the election. You have to evaluate elections before, during, and after. So what had happened before the election, where political parties given the chance to express their ideas, to hold rallies here and there. Was there a level playing field for political parties to operate in every corner of the country? Then when you talk about these things, again, there are clear concerns, not just political parties, but also other civil society and other organizations who closely follow these things. So to talk about this electoral integrity, all this, actually we're going to have to judge the election based on what happened before the election, what happened on the day of the election, and also what will happen after the election. And I think although the Electoral Board of Ethiopia has not announced the result of the election, political leaders have been conceding, like opposition political leaders have been conceding the result of the election, that the Prosperity Party has taken a lead in the outcome of the election. So we're going to just have to wait and see.
Let's wait and see the result and the post-election process. That's a nice thing. Now we conducted an election. Like there has been a lot of arguments before the election was conducted, but now we're over it. Like we are past the election. So what is the implication of having an election in Ethiopia, like regarding or like concerning about the situation, the whole situation of the country before the election? We have been in chaos, violence, and so many things have been going on in the country. So like, what could be the implication of conducting an election for Ethiopia?
I think we have to understand that an election in general is not the end of everything. It is a step toward this political development, toward this authoritarianism or toward this democratic systems. When we come to Ethiopia, the Ethiopia's problem is not just about conducting a free, fair, and democratic election. We really have a major issue that that has created violence, particularly along ethnic lines. We have millions of people, internally displaced people here and there. So there is a feeling of insecurity in different corners of the country. And the major reason for this chaos, is displacement, insecurity, has always been the kind of state structure that Ethiopia has adopted when EPRDF came to power in 1991. Ethiopia has adopted a unique form of state structure based on ethno-linguistic criteria. So it has created a situation where you have people who have citizenship rights in some regions, and you have also people who don't have that citizenship rights, because regions are, this ethnic federalism has created a sense of ownership on the part of some ethnic groups. So this is what has created, at least as far as I can understand, this chaos, insecurity, displacement here and there. So unless there is a real conversation in respect to the kind of structure that we have adopted in relation to the kind of chaos, insecurity, and displacement that we have seen so far in this country, I don't think election is going to solve Ethiopia's problem.
But can we take the election at a beginning or a start point of like mitigating these all problems in Ethiopia?
I think if you take it in relation to the issue of legitimacy, one of the issues that people were raising in relation to the Prime Minister's position in revising this ethnic federalism in Ethiopia that has created insecurity and displacement has been the Prime Minister doesn't have a legitimate mandate to do that. So now the election is held, and the leading political party or any political party, the political party, if it is a Prosperity Party that's going to be leading the country for the next 5 years, will have a legitimate mandate at least, regardless of the imperfection and irregularities, so that to take whatever action or whatever decision that they would make to revise this constitution. In that regard, then it might be a step in the right direction, but I'm not sure whether there is a cohesive understanding on the issue of the reason that led the country to where we are now. To cite an example, as regards the current ethnic federalism in Ethiopia, the Amhara Prosperity Party and the Oromo Prosperity Party have a clear difference, structural differences. In the last Congress, the Amhara Prosperity Party, when it became from Amhara National Democratic Movement to Amhara Democratic Party, the today's Amhara Prosperity Party clearly stated that this constitution has to be amended. And it also raised the issue of representation of Amharas in different parts of the country. So the Amhara Prosperity Party has clear stand on the fact that the ethnic federalism has to be revised in this country. Whereas the Oromo Prosperity Party in the past has made it clear that there is no negotiation on ethnic federalism. So we have these two branches of the same political party having clear differences on such structural issues. So will the Prime Minister reconcile all these differences in the years ahead? Again, we're going to have to wait and see.
At least the government or like the authority will be legitimate, right? The election brings this legitimacy to the power of the Prime Minister or whatever the leading party will be. Yeah. Good.
Yes, it will give, the election will give the leading political party and the Prime Minister some kind of legitimacy, not full legitimacy, because there are significant number of people who actually do not believe that the election is legitimate, because, for instance, political parties in Oromia, the Oromo Federal Congress, Oromo Liberation Front in Oromia, and others have boycotted the election. So the fact that these political parties boycotted the election, would that create a legitimacy gap towards the Prime Minister? I have no idea.
Maybe. There are some extended like elections in some part of the country too. Yeah. In addition to the boycotting.
Yeah, of course, a quarter of country, the election was not held in the quarter of the country. So yes, this, my understanding, it will give him a relatively better legitimacy to the Prime Minister and the leading party, because the fact that at least in the cities, in the urban areas, there is no major concern in terms of intimidating leaders of political parties or this major cheating on the election or this and that. But again, we have also these concerns on the part of different political parties.
Okay, so let's talk about the election day.
Yeah, I think this is an election held on the 21st of June with much skepticism on the part of the international community and also people in Ethiopia. Partly because we have a conflict going on in Tigray, and partly because some political leaders of opposition political parties are in jail for whatever reason. So there was, at least on the part of the international community, much skepticism about the election doing good to the country. And there will be insecurity, chaos, conflict on the day of the election. Fortunately, again, we held the election without any incident. That is a good thing. But will that solve that conflict in Tigray or political antagonism among different political parties in Oromia or other parts of the country? Again, I'm not sure.
How about the people of Ethiopia? Like when you talk to your friends or other people, when you decided to have a meeting or to discuss something, people will say can we do that after the election? They keep saying that. They were so scared that something is going to happen. Why did they think that?
I think in this country, particularly after political liberalization began in March, with the rise of Prime Minister Abiy in power in March 2018, there has been the insecurity, the displacement has increased for obvious reasons. It's not because TPLF, the TPLF led Ethiopia for about 3 decades we had peace or democracy, justice and equality. But we had an authoritarian system that has a centralized rule in this country. So it managed to control every incident in every corner of the country in this authoritarian context. When political liberalization began in March, at least with the rise of the Prime Minister in March 2018, what has happened is that authoritarianism is gone. Everybody has at least a platform to express its views, to organize, to write whatever he or she wants. So with that, we have seen, again, that ethnic polarization, division along ethnic and religious lines mainly because of the kind of political system that was installed in Ethiopia by the TPLF in 1991. We have created a society that fights each other if gets the opportunity along ethnic lines. So that is what happened after the rise of Prime Minister Ahmed in power. But there is also another thing in addition to this, and that is there is a clear difference on the position on the different the members of the EPRDF, the then EPRDF coalition, or the branches of the Prosperity Party today on some structural issues. Mm-hmm. So because of their actions or inactions, they also contributed to the kind of insecurity, displacement here and there in this country. So what is important after this election is, will that difference still persist, or the Prime Minister will be in charge and try to reconcile the difference, or one of the branches of the Prosperity Party will prevail over the other, so that we will have, you know, one victorious group that will say, no, this is the kind of system that's going to go along the way.
So people of Ethiopia were cautious about the election because of the current situation of the country, the chaos, the violence, the displacement. That's why they were scared to this, that something will happen on the election day. Thank God there is nothing happened in the election day, and we hope there will not be any chaos or any crisis after the election too. So thank you very much. If there's nothing left that you wanted to say about the election and the post-election process, I think we should wrap up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
This is all we got for The View today, and we have Bantayo Shifara, a political science and international studies lecturer at Bahar Dar University, staying with us and giving us like his thoughts on the election process and the post-election process Ethiopia, which has been held in 21st of June 2021. This is all we got for today. Thank you very much for staying with us. See you next time.